This is how to make a coiled bowl. First, you want to dampen your surface. As you roll coils out, they will continuously, the canvas, or in my case paper, will continuously pull water from your clay. So you can kind of give it a head start by doing just what I was doing. You can see that I already have kind of a thin side and a thicker side. You can go ahead and tamp those out. But the key to rolling coils is to simply ease off the pressure. As you begin to allow it to roll, you gotta allow it to really roll underneath your hands. Doing it like this just with your fingertips doesn't actually allow the coil to completely roll 108 or 360 degrees. So you need to have enough surface, and I am going outside of my picture frame here, I realize, but you need to have enough surface where you're able to allow the coil to roll 360 or more times. Now again, because I'm working on paper, I'm getting these little crinkles because of the wrinkles that are in the paper. I can deal with that later. You won't have that issue as you're working on canvas. But I always start in the middle. I normally will use the palms of my hands, and again, it's just really critical to make sure that that surface stays damp, because whatever surface you're working on will continue to pull the water out of the clay as you're working with it. So to start a coil bowl, you're going to want to go ahead and have a bisque form. That's one of the easiest ways to create a bowl that's made from coils. It's always a good idea to have a slab of clay that is kind of the center. So go ahead and just get some of your wedge clay and pound it out. You know, and with every with every different technique that you might need to use, you have an opportunity, right? So I'm making this slab circle, which was simply a ball of clay that I kind of patted out, and it's relatively symmetrical. You know, the back side of it is going to remain untouched. And so I have the opportunity to use a stamp or make a texture or something like that. So, you know, don't be afraid to start to play around with some of the texture tools. Your shoes are always a great source of texture. Jewelry is another great source of texture. Toys, great source of texture. Yes, as I put this down, it's probably going to lose some of its depth, you know, but that's okay. It's on the bottom of the bowl, so it's kind of like the surprise anyway, okay? I do have a little bit of an ovoid form right here, so I want to make sure that I go ahead and take care of that. You can use your pin tool, your X-Acto knife, and just, you know, if you're like, I don't know if it's a circle or not, you know, find a lid, find something that's round, approximate, and trace around it and trim the excess away. So I just don't want to start with something ovoid, because then as soon as I start to use the coils, that's going to exacerbate it, okay? So place that down in the center. The reason that we do this and that we don't start with a coil from the center is because the coils, if they're started from the center with this technique, they will have a great propensity to cracking. And so we would want to, you know, alleviate that as much as possible. So now you can take your coil and simply start working it around. At this point, you know, you want to make sure that you kind of squash the coil into the next one. Try to keep that slab of clay in the center of your bisque form. And the bisque forms are located under the large wooden table in the hand building room. You can see right here that this is mostly because of, again, the fact that I was working on paper. And so I had these little crinkles, and it's kind of made a really thin spot. So I'm just going to go ahead and take on either side of that, push those two together. I don't have to worry about what it looks like right now, because I'm going to use my serrated rib and my smooth rib and go ahead and take care of all of that. Okay, so you may be like, well, I'm just going to put the coil the whole way to the rim and then smooth it all. It's gonna be better to smooth as you go. Again, always use clean tools. So I've got, some old dried clay on my tools. Get that off, because if you don't, you will end up depositing it. It doesn't work like the rest of the clay. And so you'll end up, with these like really dried bits of clay where you don't necessarily want them. Okay, so I am using my dry finger first. And I am pulling the clay towards the center. The reason I don't do the opposite is because if I pulled out, I might actually pull the coils apart. And so this way, I'm pulling them towards the center and making sure that they are overlapped. I'm not, hopefully you can see that I'm not dragging a whole lot of clay. I'm not sticking my finger in and like able to make a really deep mark. I usually start towards the center and then kind of work my way to the outside. And once you really attach those coils together, that's when you want to go back and make sure that you're using your serrated rib to really bring those coils together on the inside. And then once we take this out, you'll have the choice to smooth on the outside or keep the coil texture. And so again, if you decide that you want to keep that coil texture, you have this really great opportunity. You can also see that right now I'm not simply limiting my serrated rib use to the coils. I'm incorporating that right into that slab. I'm also, pressing down a little bit too, and that helps to really compress these coils together and make sure that they don't separate during the firing, during the drying and the firing process. This is especially true if you realize that you really like the way or the design that the coils will make as you build up to the top, and you like the way that they look on the outside surface. You really want to make sure that you're compressing on the inside to prevent them from cracking at the seams.